Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Benedict Howard, and for some reason, I can't get my logo up on the bottom there, so it's ebodyfusion.com. This is the May 2016 Hangout together. This is a monthly hangout that I do, and I cover a lot of topics around microcurrent. And it's a beautiful day here in Hawaii. I just got back from a short little run before getting on with you here, and last night I was working real late and early this morning to get this show together for you, so I'm really excited to be able to present it. Now, hopefully, and I had a problem last week, I can share the screen. Yes, that one is sharing, the others are not. My goodness, that's a bit of luck. Okay, and so I'm going to switch to the screen and to the slideshow and introduce you to what we're going to be talking about. So basically it's make 2016 the year to get really, really healthy. And oh good, I see that's coming up in broadcasting. That's excellent. And today we're going to be covering a number of topics. We're going to be looking at the clinical studies, the diseases of the respiratory system, and actually some interesting medical, well, dark medical stuff around that too, which I just discovered last night. So I'm going to include a little vignette into that. In the series on the 7 healing secrets of electricity, we're going to look at section 5, the cell membrane and its importance, and also, of course, nutrition, exercise, and motivation. You know, having excellent nutrition, which is what we all really, really must strive for right now, and so that you're not getting any of the glyphosates, you're not getting any of the toxins, and you're getting live foods into your system so that it can really enhance the energy levels and the way that the body can repair itself. And so we're looking about some exercise. I'll be sharing some of my exercise stuff this week. And well, actually the last month is kind of interesting what's been going on for me. And so that'll be continuing of my sort of self-revelatory testimonial here. And the motivation stuff, it's so huge. And I'm so glad that I've got this motivation to get this show together for you, because really what we're talking about here is groundbreaking work. This like shatters all of the medical standards. We're basically changing the face of medicine with AA batteries. So if you've got neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, whatever the pain, we're gonna, in this series, I've been teaching you how to resolve your pain. So in a way, it's like kind of like, you know, wherever you've got pain, you're going to be able to erase it out. Or if you've got different cell stuff that's going on at a sub-level, say in the lungs or the digestion or wherever it might be, the electrical tingles, the electricity has a magical properties. And we'll get into that more, especially when we're looking at the cell membrane voltage later on. And in the 7 healing secrets of electricity series that I've been doing, in January, we covered the pain reduction qualities, the pathogen killing properties of electricity, the energizing properties of electricity, and we'll look a little bit more about that today too. Last month in April, we covered the antioxidant properties of electricity, and more specifically electrons and the way that they work. And this week, or this month rather, we're going to be covering the cell membrane. So that's really, really important. Next month in July, we're going to be covering neuropeptides, and that's, you could spend a lifetime talking about those. But I will briefly give you the science around why we get such amazing rejuvenation properties, is because the electricity releases the neuropeptides. And of course, stress reduction. That'll be in August, so that'll complete that 7 healing secrets series. So basically what I'm talking about here is that in the 1980s, the SCENAR in the clinical trials achieved an 88.50% cure rates, or average cure rates, across all of the disease groups. And if you look like down in here, so frostbites, poisoning by drugs, medications, biological substances, toxic effects of substances, etc. And it just goes on giving. Diseases of the skin, the subcutaneous tissues, infections, all of the infections, dermatitis, eczema, all of those, psoriasis, all of those. You know, all of these are addressed simply because we're getting electricity and energy into the body. Pretty awesome. pretty simple, and we'll get into that, how we do it in a moment. So yeah, we're going to be looking specifically at the cell membrane voltage. We'll get to that in a little bit. And not to be confused with these artificial nanites, they're called, and I'm going to be talking about those as well, which are engineered for specific dark purposes in the body, let's say. And so, you know, in the 7 healing secrets of electricity with the cell membrane voltage, it's so important to understand this basic concept, because once you've got it, you'll understand everything around why it does so many different things. And I'm going to reveal actually a high-end secret that basically I've really, if ever, just on occasion, shared before. So stick around, because this is really important for you guys to get. So if you're still on the fence about making 2016 the year to get really healthy, as a question, you know, are you on that tightrope, so to speak? We were watching these guys on the slack line there down at the beach, and you know, it's a balancing act. You know, when we're trying to get healthy and we want to move from you know, a place of low energy or worse, and I'll share some of my worseness that's been happening this month with you in a bit. You know, it's really important that you really dedicate your life's purpose to getting better, because, you know, the diseases and everything that's in our system, because of the way that, yeah, we as individuals have allowed the system to really demonize us. You know, it's time to really look at what it takes. And, you know, if you're carrying a lot of weight, or if you've got a lot of pain, you can quickly get the energy that really allows you to move on. And for me, it's been like the energy and the motivation to be able to move and do my yoga, to start running and more running as I got fitter and more acclimatized to it. And if you look here, that's one of the DENASes. I always take it if I'm hiking or wherever I am in the car. I've got one actually strapped on me right now for the back problems that I alluded to earlier on. And so it's like, you know, all of this is around that motivation, the motivation to keep fit, motivation to look at goals, motivation to plan to the future, not motivation. It's not motivated to stay in the past. And that's all we've got, is the future is what we create. And with this type of technology, it is a phenomenal way of creating. So if you want to get off that medical hamster wheel, you know, and have the doctors like raking the money from you, yeah, horrific statistics. I saw that in just about every other country, the people that go bankrupt through medical expenses is 0. Whereas in the States, it's running in close to, I forget how many, it's like 1 million or something, went bankrupt because of medical bills. You know, basically what they're doing is they're literally doing that. They're creaming off all of our wealth that we put together over the generations by synthesizing different conditions in the body, different diseases in the body that we call diseases, but basically it's a low energy and suppressing the immune system. And so that's what these guys have been raking in and doing for decades now. And we have an opportunity with this type of technology to really trump that and take the medicine in our own hands, take the power back in our own hands and do it. So kind of like back in the, a long while ago, like in the late 80s, early 90s, I became a Reiki master. And that was really cool, because it allowed me to communicate to people that I was a Reiki master. However, I'd been doing hands-on healing for, I don't know, for years before that. But because I was just doing hand-on healing, I didn't have a label on it. And labels are really important from one positive point of view, but labels can be really detrimental. And we'll look at that work of Mike Adams briefly later on. And so don't get caught up in this medical treadmill. If you find yourself going to the doctor and, you know, oh, your next appointment is ... skip the appointments and grab your DENAS or your SCENAR or your ENOT or whatever it is and get to work, guys. Okay? So looking at the nutritional aspects of things, of course, that is huge. And Here's a nice bunch of green coconuts that our friend brings around. And so, you know, we have been in the last couple of weeks or so having, I don't know, a coconut or two a day, and which has been really nice, especially those green ones. And then using the white meat out of it and putting it in the blender and making a sort of coconut puree out of it, and then putting that in the fridge. And oh my God, it's like an ice cream. It's really delicious. Well, coconuts aside, you know, whatever it is, make sure you're getting the good foods, non-GMO labeled, because you want alkalizing foods and you want organic. Now, heads up on the organic scenario. It has been bastardized by the Monsanto lookalikes by buying up organic companies that had traditions of growing organic vegetables and foods and grains and stuff for us, and then allowing the big drama phosphates to be sprayed on those lands, and they're still calling it organic. So even though it's USDA organic, it doesn't mean a thing anymore. So people wake up. Same thing with unprocessed foods, and I'm going to reveal later on why this is doubly, triply, phenomenally important for you right now. It turns out that all of the processed foods not only has the glyphosates in it, but it also has these engineered nanites that we'll talk about later too. So, you know, green drinks are great. And, you know, that's a shot that I've used for all that throughout this whole series. You know, get those green juices, especially, you know, live, organic, I mean, certified organic. In other words, you kind of like need to know your farmer. Or I was reading the other day about vertical growing, and and it was like how to grow enough food for your family of 4 in a space under 4 square feet. And I think, and there was another thing in that, but oh, even if you don't have a yard. And basically, you know, people are wising up, so you can get these vertical growing trellises and put them in your apartment or whatever and start to grow your own food, guys. How amazing is that? You know, so at least you'll have, you know, all of your greens and veggies will be live foods that you've grown. You know what you put in there. You know, filter the water, of course, etc. But you'll know what you put in there, and so that's a great cost-effective way of getting green foods without having to rely on the labeling and all of that drama. Yeah, it could take a little time, but if you've got kids, they'll love taking care of those little veggies each day. So, as you know, all of this sort of motivation stuff, all the exercise, all of the, you know, repetition, it all needs to be done. You know, you can't skip one or the other, and it needs to be done, you know, on a cyclic basis. I use the full moon for my cycle. And that's a shot actually going over Saddle Road on the Big Island. I think it was like the last full moon, so that would have been in April, just a few weeks back. And it was early morning again. I tried to get up there. We have to get up there super early now. It's like 5 o'clock or something. And the sun was beginning to hit the mountains over Kona side there. And it was just like a special shot, a special day for us. And you know, when you do all of these things on a cyclic nature, when you get off the fence and you become, well, energized first, and then the motivation becomes easier, and you get energized because of the electrical stim. And then you start to doing some exercise, which, you know, incidentally, I've got way, 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 way better at the exercise over the last 4 or 5 months. And I'll just quickly show what's made a huge difference to you. And we'll talk about this later. It's called the vertebra because it gets the energy of the electrical stim into all of the spine. But it hasn't been without issues, I must say. You know, this month I went into major healing crisis on my lower back, which is an old injury. It's been about a year since it popped up last time, and it does on a cyclic nature. And I thought I had it licked, and lo and behold, bam, it comes in as sciatica like a week or 2 later. And so it isn't gone, but I keep repeating what I know that works. Just like when I'm playing golf there, there's a Mauna Kea up right over there, 13,600 feet. This is actually the Volcanoes golf course, beautiful golf course. And I've really only been played on a proper golf course, a few times in my life. We've been going to a friend's golf course, but it's very, very short. And I tell you, it's really learning to set yourself up before the shot and pay attention to the shot, really allowing the club to do its work and allowing the ball to get to the flag, so to speak. Doesn't always, well, barely, rarely, well, sometimes. And then, and it's the game and the joy of the game too. And that's what's been so really phenomenal, is getting to a place where the energy in me is sufficient that, I took that run up that hill. I mean, we go up, I don't know, 300 feet or something. And so it's a climb. And of course, it's warm, except when it's raining. It can be really hot as well. And so, and it's like the body just loves doing that now. And of course, when you combine all of this, and especially with the microcurrent work, you're going to lead you to that success and, that vision of being on the beach in Hawaii, or just the beautiful blue ocean there. So as Cicero said, the life given to us by nature is short, but the memory of a life well spent is eternal. And I have a special guest joining me today. Hopefully we can get hooked up. And let me just go check things to make sure things are running here. So we're just going to take a little break, just one moment. I just want to double check that everything's running right. And also to send another invite out for Chris to join us. Now, Chris is a sports coach. Hang on, I need to think two things here. Chris Hoffman. Excuse me one moment, guys, whilst I send another invite for him. I'm hoping he can join us in a few minutes. So Chris, if you're listening to this, that's great. If you are, Chris, listening to this, you will need to, watching this, you'll need to come in via the link in order to get on screen with me. So just heads up on that. So the life given to us by nature is short, but the memory of a life well spent is eternal. And I can't, that is what's so frigging amazing about all of this, is that, when we have this life on this planet, and when we use the tools that can bring that rejuvenation, for instance, to the body. But I think we're all working on the other page. I haven't clicked to goes, but I will, just to make sure. And make sure that I turn down the sound so you don't hear double. And yeah, we've got that. So I see we have 4 viewers online at eBody Fusion Hangout. Welcome. And so back to the life eternal. So it's like what I have discovered, what I've managed in myself, even though, where is the slide? Even though I had frigging major back pain for decades of my life, I have got now to a place where it's manageable. I mean, it's totally manageable. And I really thank God that I came across the microcurrent, the SCENAR work. And so if you have back pain, shoulder pain, we're going to be able to erase your pain with, and resolve it, your pain with this microcurrent devices. So let's go back and over here. So so this is really what it's about, is to really maximize the value of your life, really get clear on setting goals for the future. I know it's exceedingly difficult. And that is the thing that I learned this month, was that when I was in massive pain, I became depressed. I didn't want to do my yoga. It hurt too much. I couldn't run. And I went through the poor pity me. And then I took a few pain pills, one a day for a few days, and that really helped. But I thought I'd got over it, and I hadn't. And then I started to do a little yoga, and my whole exercise regime fell apart. And if you have pain like that, I certainly can relate. You know, it's very, very difficult to deal with it. But with this technology, it is a plus because you can deal with it. You know, if we go back to, I forget which month it was, let's see, very quickly, I'll go here. If we go back to, yeah, the January hangout, we talked about the pain-killing aspects of microcurrent. We gave an overview of the clinical studies. In February, we looked at the pathogens and the diseases of the circulation and electrical fertilizers, which was a really interesting topics. Plants respond to this microcurrent just the same as humans do. So there's proof over in the plant kingdom as well. March, we looked at the digestive rates and the energizing properties of electricity. In April last month, we looked at the antioxidants and the diseases of the year. So, you know, I've got to like, it's a, what do we call it? This is like a series of hangouts that you can listen to and educate yourself on. So, you know, let's get on to the diseases of the respiratory system and look at those. And again, on this slide, again, basically the SCENAR achieved an average 88.50% cure rates. And if it wasn't for these little boogers, and we'll get more to them in a moment, we would not have the disease and the lung infections and the respiratory infections that we have today. Now, I have to say that this slide here shows basically a 89.4% cure rates on those types of respiratory issues. And now, because of this type of engineering that's going on behind the scenes, and we'll look at it in a moment in more detail, it's really, really important that you learn about microcurrent and the way that it can handle and actually scramble the way that these bots have been built to create disease systems in the body. And but back in the good old days, back in the 80s, this is the rates that they were getting. This is the cure rates that they were getting. You'll see that there's only, you know, a small percent. Well, here we go. Let's look at the improved rates over here on the right. For acute cold stuff, basically 100%, 99.84. One person had no result. You know, you use to do this. It's kind of simple. Basically, if you've got a runny nose, for instance, you put the scanner at a low volume or power level on the side of the nose, and yeah, I've got to reset my clock on my. I've got one pad that I've put onto my right hip because I'm experiencing pretty intense numbing and sciatica down there, which I'm working on, guys. And I've been doing my yoga each day, and I've been stretching into that hip completely, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times each day, and it's really, really making a difference. But I've got to find what it is that's causing it. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I digress. Back to upper respiratory, viral infections, you know, 100%. Will this work today at 100%? No, it won't. I can say because my partner had upper respiratory viral infection, and the SCENAR made phenomenal difference. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal difference. She could breathe deeper because we could release all the tension around the ribs and everything. Special techniques I teach in the training for that, and re-educated the muscles so that she could breathe deeper. But in the long, and it did clear up for a while, but then it quickly came back actually. And even though we tried more and more different ways of working with the electrical stim and the microcurrent into the lung tissue, we didn't really succeed 100%. We did get significant improvement. Linda's nodding her head over here. So yeah, significant improvement, but don't expect it. What actually did knock it out in the end was a good old course of super powerful antibiotics that she had been avoiding taking for, I don't know, 10 plus years. And because like a lot of us, you know, we don't believe in the antibiotics. We don't believe in the what's the other word? The vaccines, for instance. And so anyway, I'm mumbling on here, but let's carry on. Influenza, 100%. Tonsillitis, laryngitis, that sort of thing. Basically 95.73%. Sinusitis, 98.64. Now, although I'm saying that you're not gonna get these type of curates anymore, because of, and don't forget that back in Russia in the 80s, their diets wasn't that good. But if you include, you know, a good, healthy, non-GMO, 100% organic diet, you stand a huge chance of being able to really combat these types of issues way more effectively. Let's see if I can find the right slide here. There we go. And so just keep on, this is why I keep on I keep on emphasizing the diet. And the more I learn about what's going on in our foods and in our drinks and stuff, the more phenomenally important this message is, even if you don't, you know, take anything else away from this hangout together with me. You're going to, if you change that diet and really listen to the horror show that I am going to show you in a moment, and understand the implications of that, and you're gonna stand a good chance of being able to, you know, prolong your life and stay out of the hospital and not be losing your money to the medical system. So acute asthma, oh, cool. Pneumonia, 84%. Acute bronchitis, 91%. But the asthma, I wanted to tell you about asthma because that was one of the things that I got as a kid, and it recently came back. And actually, that was what was holding me back from running. And finally, I went to the doctors, and he gave me an inhaler, and it's made all of the difference you can imagine. That sounds like we have Chris coming in.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah.
Chris, I'm just going to finish up talking about this, and then we'll get right on with you. Perfect timing.
Okay.
And so let's stay on here. This is awesome. We have Chris here. I've been trying to get him onto this hangout for 6 months, I think, right? And so where am I? He's just got back from China. So, you know, in all of these, you know, these are a little misleading in terms of the figures that you could expect using the standard protocols that the Russians still use. You're not going to get anything like it. However, with the protocols that we've developed in the trainings that I've been developing since 2008, which is a much more rigorous application, and a lot more time is spent in terms of like infusing the body with electricity. And, you know, that's what makes this device, for instance, just absolutely phenomenal for getting it into the body. You lie on this. I just had to do this beautiful shot here. And you lie on this, your head's up over these the back of the neck, and then it all goes all the way down the spine to the coccyx. So of course, this is horizontal and propped up properly. So yeah, that kind of like wraps up the talk I wanted to give around these respiratory issues. And so I'm going to stop sharing and let's get on with Chris. Let's see if I can get back to my right screen. Great. Hey, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's so good to see you here. I've been we had a little chat last week, and I was amazed at some of the stories that you gave me around about what was happening in China with the pollution and the regime that they have for training in sports. It was just like almost like medieval to me. Yeah. So, yeah. So you know, let me just give you a little introduction to folks that I know of you. Chris has been helping people. You've been specializing in what? In sports, in the sports arena, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Chris has become, you know, quite an expert in that. And recently he came to me last year. He found me and went like, I want to train with this guy, and good choice. And And so we got jumped into the training. He went through the 3-month professional training, and he was in and out of China and America, and then back to China, and then we lost contact because the internet is problematic over there. And so now we have Chris back with us. Chris, how have you found? Just give us a brief scenario of how you find working with the DENAS with people.
Well, in my field, where I used it predominantly in the sports field, like you mentioned, it was another fantastic tool to deal with the issues you deal in professional sports, where you don't have much time for recovery, or if people get injured. The games are very fast, and you have multiple games a week, so there is not much chance for real traditional type of recovery, where you have the luxury of taking off some days. The athletes are needed, so the faster you can succeed in recovery or overcome an injury and bring them back on the court, the better it is. And that DENAS just helped in doing that. It was a great tool, and I had the chance I used it during the whole last season, and it was quite amazing how fast, depending on the injury, how fast you can bring them back on court, or you can maintain injuries, and you can enable the athlete to still play at the highest level they are capable of, even while you are dealing with an injury. So it was just a great tool to use in that realm. And
right. That sounds like an awesome, well, quote, experiment, because what would you say, like, what sort of, a guy has an injury, an ankle or whatever it might be. How much did it quicken up that heal time, would you estimate? Of course, every injury is different and everything else, but
right. I mean, it's kind of difficult to quantify in numbers how much faster or so, in days or so. But like in our case, it's mostly we play, for example, Wednesday, Friday, Sundays. So there is not much time in between. Then you have the travel days, which are not really in the resting days if you are traveling. So it's not really a resting day. So, and we were able to, even with people with really overuse and chronic knee pain, for example, and other issues, to either maintain or even improve while you are in that kind of structural time-wise, also in this kind of fast-paced playing the games. So that was all possible. So to quantify that, I think from comparing in the past and dealing with similar injuries, I would say at least half the time.
Yeah, that would be in my sort of perspective too. I think that I've noticed it. I have a rule of thumb. It's probably, you're saying twice as fast. Yeah, 2 to 3 times as quick.
Yeah.
It really depends. What's been interesting, Chris, is I've hinted that the issues that I've been going through with my back reoccurring this month. And what's been really interesting to me is that after the back went out and then it healed, it took a long time actually this time. It took like a month, which was way longer than I had. But I went through major pain and depression, and I fell off the exercise, etc., as I was saying earlier on the show. But what happened is that now when I go into that pose, which I could get to a certain position, say, now I can get into that position way easier. It's stretched all of those ligaments, it's stretched all the attachments on there, and allowed me to go deeper into those poses. So it's like it's not like to me it's not like it's like a torn ligament that you heal normally, and then you have to spend months trying to stretch out again, right? So long as you exercise whilst you're doing this, you're going to get those results and feedback too. Yeah, cool, Chris. Yeah, it's so you've been working with, I know for sure, 1 gold medalist. What other wins did you get with your guys over there?
Say again, I didn't hear it acoustically.
I know that you've been working with one gold medalist there, and you had, but that was prior to coming in with
Right.
Microcurrent.
Yeah.
And you got, because of the way that you'd learned to manipulate the body and do the hand stuff on the body, you'd got to a place where he was basically out of it completely for a year.
Right.
And you brought him back to win what, 3 golds, was it?
Yeah, 3 gold medals. Yeah, within a relatively short time. That was interesting. Just again, interesting to see the treatment of their professional athletes, even at the highest level over there. This particular athlete, he had shoulder issues. He's the most known swimmer in China, and he went through their route within the national, swimming, the therapists, the doctors they offer. He was in Australia at the time training. He saw doctors and therapists over there, and nobody seemed to be able to, I don't know, do anything about it. At the end of all their resources, they basically told him to stop training completely for some months, for about 4 months, 5 months, take a long rest, and then see if he can come back. And talking to the swim coach, his swim coach from Australia, he said that would have been the end of the career, actually, because if a swimmer takes off that long without being in the pool, they lose all the feeling for the water and everything. They usually do not come back, and specifically not at that level. It's just too long, and because they are never longer. The longest they are out of the water is maybe a week. The whole year. Wow. They train constantly. They have to be in the water. They have to feel the water, because it's such a different medium for them to be in, and they lose actually how it feels. So that was, I was told, because it was my first time I worked with a swimmer. But for me, it doesn't really matter what type of sports they are playing, because I look at movement. So I just analyze movement. I see how they move, what they do, where the pain is, and then do what's necessary. So he came after we won the championship in basketball in China. He came to see me he flew out from Australia. He came to me, and I saw him once at my apartment. I started to do my tissue manipulations, and immediately he made a movement where he used to have pain, and the pain was gone. And beautiful. Yeah, and it just tells it's not the first time that something like that happened in my career, because the doctors are all good, and they know more than I do, or than we therapists do in their field, but they don't look at the body like we do. I look at the body from a tissue point of view. I look at the movements that the athletes are doing. I look at those kind of things, and then determine where the weak spots are, and why a shoulder is overused, or why a shoulder is not moving properly. And it's usually repetitive movement that changes the range of motion in an athlete, that restricts range of motion. And then over time, because of the high repetitions so these athletes do over and over, they do the same movement, it can cause irritation, inflammation, and just they lose the quality of movement and have pain. And if you push it, at some point the body says, or the nervous system says, no more. And you have to be able to identify that and release the proper structures, so that the nervous system can reset that whole area and then restore movement without putting basically damage on the area. That's why the nervous system protects the area and the athlete in the first place. Having pain is just a protection mechanism from the nervous system to not have damage done to a tissue or to an area. And if you restore that and feed the nervous system different information, and then they can move again. And that's what happened to that athlete. That's basically all I did. Yeah.
Sweet. So you did that just with your hands. Now, would you use the device, right? Would you use one of the devices in the same way when you're working to get to those attachments or wherever it is?
Partly, yes,
compared
depending on where it is and what I think they need. I would either do that, or then as a substitute, after I do my work, then add the DENAS and work the whole area to restore and speed up the healing within that area. So both would be, yeah, I would do it. If I think I can get to the area where I need to go, I would go directly on it. Or then, like I said, after I work on it, I use it in the whole area to speed up the healing process there. Yeah.
Wow, that's great news for people, isn't it? You know, Chris, I got I don't want to shut you off, but I got to finish up the rest of the stuff that I prepared. You know, depending on, you know, maybe viewers' response down the road, I would love to sit down with you and do like a full hour and discuss this and help, you know, sports therapists or therapists understand the, you know, the intricacies of working with, you know, high-performing athletes like you are. And that would be just such a wonderful resource for them, and also an opportunity for them to get to know your services too. So let's plan that. You're going to be around for the next few months, and let's set some time up for that, and I'll promote it, and we'll get you on board there too.
Cool. Yeah.
Great.
That would be a good thing for people too, and we can all share that. Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Well, thank you, Chris. If you gave yourself a title, what would it be? Is it I called you I think I called you wrong. I thought I said sports coach, and I was going like, maybe it's sports therapist.
It's difficult to say, because I do, like with my clients that I work longer, I do everything. I do nutrition. I look at nutrition. We look at blood work. I do training, conditioning. I do strength. I do rehab. I do just in season maintenance. I do the mental aspect of an athlete being prepared for playoffs and championship games. So it's hard to put a title on it. I'm just a coach. Oh yeah, exactly. You know, that's
you're Chris Hoffman. All right.
So hopefully we can talk soon, and hello to everybody there. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And yeah, thank you for taking your time out this morning. I know that you're really busy getting ready for the weekend's event.
Ready to head out and see a client. Yeah.
Okay, so I won't hold you up anymore. You have a great day.
Thank you,
Chris.
You guys too. So send me a message and we set something up.
Okay, sounds great. Well,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was so phenomenal to have Chris on there. You know, we've been trying to get together for many months, and he's finally back in LA and with his client there, and working his magic with other people there too. So stay tuned. If you're a therapist, or if you're, you know, got those sort of pain levels, you can hear from an expert that's working with gold medalists how he's working with it. And by the way, he trained with me. So so let's move on here. So let's take a break. That was wonderful to have Chris in there, and but getting back to what we've been talking about, and so I'm just going to give us a quick little refresher before I finish up here. We were looking at, get myself back on track too. We covered the respiratory system. We were looking at the cell membrane, and I'm going to go into that next. So talking about the cell membrane, and especially the cell membrane voltage. I'm going to try and keep this talk to within the hour. It may straddle over a little bit. Please forgive me if it does. Now, the cell membrane, I'm going to talk about this from an electrical model because there's basic concepts that you need to grasp here. Because the effects of electricity on the cell membrane voltage are gargantuan. In other words, what I'm saying here is that life force in the cell is really dependent on there being a cell membrane voltage. In other words, there's a voltage across this, I think it's like 7-9 nanometer thick cell membrane wall. Now, the cell membrane is made out of lipids, which is fats. It's called a bilipid phosphate layer. And in that diagram, we see proteins that are mixed in there, but basically those those red, blue, and black lines that are reaching to one another, those are the lipids making this super thin, electrically insulating layer that surrounds the cell and all of the magic that happens inside the cell. Now, when the cell is dying, or when you don't have the proper fats, which is why the government gave us all of the bullshit fats, canola oil and all of that stuff, those oils don't have the correct lipids in them for healthy cell membranes. In other words, what happens is that when you take safflower, you take canola oil, any of those commercial oils, which of course have huge quantities of glyphosates in them, the cell membrane begins to die off. Specifically, what happens is that the lipids that are in those bad oils form plastics, and therefore what happens is that the inside of the cell can't work efficiently anymore, and can't pump in and can't pump out, and the inner functions are actually dependent on having a higher voltage inside the cell than in the tissues around it. So what does that mean? Well, there are voltage levels, and I owe this to Jerry Tennant, who's not one of my favorites in this field. But anyway, he did write a book, The Healing, Voltage is Healing. And in it, he talks about the cell membrane voltage being optimally in around the 70 millivolts, sort of a range. And that may be plus or minus or whatever it is. But what happens is that when the cell membrane voltage drops off, when it decreases, then the cell can't work properly and it begins to die. And in fact, as it drops from 70 to 60 millivolts to 50 millivolts and below, basically that cell is dead. So how do we bring it back to life? Real simple. We just put microcurrent to the cells and it brings back all of the functions. It tightens up the cell membrane itself. It increases the way that the subcellular components can work inside the cell, and so you get healthier. It pushes out the interstitial fluid, and so things detox that much quicker. And so let's see, I didn't put the slides in. I have another slide that I meant to put in the show, but let's stick with this one. And so what happens is that in the disease state, the energy in the body drops off, and you can feel it. I mean, I was feeling it with the pain I was in. But by bringing the energy back to the body, it's not only giving you more energy so that you can do more things and you can think more straighter. The reason why you can do more things and you can think more straight is because the cell membrane voltage is being brought back up to its optimum value. And so microcurrent measures, or on these devices, we can actually measure areas of the body that are low in membrane voltage. And therefore, we know where to apply it. Part of it is no-brainer. It's where there's pain. But at other times, it's more subtle than that. And in order to really achieve the long-lasting effects of the subtle energy work that we can do with microcurrent, it takes a while to understand, and it takes a while to get a baseline on the body. And that's what we cover in the advanced training with the PCM, for instance. And by the way, the PCM is a great unit. But the DENAS is an extraordinary unit for the value, for the price. And I'll be talking about the DENAS a little bit later on, because I've got a special that's going to pop up on the Hangout at eBodyFusion/Hangout that I'll be offering just for a very limited time after this talk for those people that are online right now. So going to back to this, the 7 healing secrets of electricity in the cell membrane. If we interfere with the cell membrane voltage, i.e. if we engineer, which is what's been happening when your immune system is compromised, you can bet the cell membrane voltage is low. And so the energy levels are low. And when the blood is, when foreign particles, dark operations, nanites and other substances, all the toxins, all the glyphosates are in the body, then you get, that's when you get diseased. So, like Chris was saying, that he's not messing around when he's talking about, getting those athletes into the best diet. It is so hugely important, and it's kind of difficult to get. You know, good food like that. Whole foods, highly suspect right now. All of the stuff on their shelves is highly suspect. So just heads up on this. Don't trust anybody. Do your own work and do your own diligence, which basically we should have been doing all along, but we got lazy. And but here's the stuff with this nanite stuff, which is a DARPA project. It's in Coke and Pepsi and all bottled water. And if you look at this, this is the DFTN estimates for nanodomestic quell phase, updated compliance. What? DARPA has been engineering these bots, which we saw one earlier. You can have them designed to do anything. There's companies that will make these little microbes that we put that are put into our water supply, and they will wreak havoc on the immune system. So it's going to cause upper respiratory problems. It's going to cause blood problems. It's going to cause immune problems. All of that stuff. Now these guys, if you can call them that, the evil ones, have been touting bottled water as being the way to go because it's all filtered. In the meantime, they've been adding in these nanites, they're called, into the bottled water, which specifically are designed to undermine the health of your system. So we're getting at this from all sides. And, you know, I've been a great, not bottled water, but, you know, spring water advocate for decades now, since the 80s. I used to live in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is where I did my original sound and sacred geometry research and developed different sound environments for healing. And of course the water there was just absolutely phenomenal. Now, because it's coming straight out of the ground, unless, of course, now with chemtrails, unless back then, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was no chemtrails at that time. It started shortly later. And so but all of these engineered stuff is being put into all foods. Now and I'm not going to bore you with a long list, but it's essentially anything that's processed now. Any processed foods, which is why I mentioned it earlier on about unprocessed foods. Any processed foods have these nanites that are specifically engineered to cull the population. Let's give it to you in the real what's going on. And so, you know, it's all of this is terribly detrimental to the system. Now, when Dr. Alexander Karasev, who was the original inventor of the SCENAR technology, to forget, Britain was certainly not, they took it and ran with it, but they were not the inventors. Dr. Karasev is. And Dr. Karasev did a recent interview, and he was talking about the effects of electricity on the cell membrane and in terms of GMO stuff. And what was turning out was that the GMO substances are denatured with microcurrent. Do you get that? Do you get the implications of that? Let me repeat it. The GMO, the bad stuff in the GMO foods, all of those foreign proteins, enzymes, and stuff that's causing havoc in our guts, in our reproductive systems, in our lungs, and everything else, in the lungs of animals and children and everything else. Those proteins, which are alien to the system, are denatured with microcurrent, number one. So I am of the opinion, and I have nothing to substantiate this, but I wouldn't mind betting that these devices, these nanites, will be denatured too. So what's the best, quickest way to denature your body of all of this stuff? Well, simply, it's actually the vertebra, because it's a no-brainer. You just lie on it and you get the electrical tingles in all of your spine and the back of the head. So it's feeding into a huge, big portion of the body. And so that's the simplest way. And then, of course, the other way is with one of the handheld units. We'll get to that in a moment. But that's the way around all of this stuff. That's why microcurrent is so hidden from us. And another reason why it is. You know, these guys don't want people like me making these hangouts and being seen by tens of thousands of people every month, because that's the type of information that they don't want out there. And so far, I've succeeded in touching a lot of people. And kind of interesting, when I post one of these hangouts afterwards to YouTube, and well, actually automatically, but when I promote it to specific groups that are general groups, guess how much of this hour-long video they watch? It's on average 30 minutes of the video. And this is to random people that are in the health niche, but random or exercise niche. So there's a lot of interest happening in this because of the information that I'm bringing to you. So, you know, heads up on this. This is amazing technology. And if you've got back pain, you know, shoulder pain, neck pain, let's erase the pain. And I'm going to teach you how to solve it too. So that's what I bring to the table to you. So I'm going to move on now from this pretty gloomy, rah picture here of these guys. This was made exactly an ad for these nanites, or by the same company that's making these nanites, that are putting it into the water, putting it into bottled water, putting it into municipal systems. It's a horror show, as you know. It's just increasingly getting worse. And with the new IMF stuff that's going on right now and the Agenda 21 propagation that's going on, you know, heads up, guys. It's time you took your power back, and legally and also medically, which you can do with this. So huge. And it will all lead to success. Now, I mentioned that I was going to open up my kimono a little bit. Basically, what I want to say about the back pain is, and because I'm running a lot over time, I'm going to have to shorten this. At one stage in my back pain here, I started getting sciatica, and I had to go through a major emotional release in order to get it to a manageable place. And what do I mean by that? I mean that when I was doing some of the yoga early one morning, I was in a forward bend or trying to get into one and trying to stretch out that sciatica, and the radiation going down my leg and my buttock and down the front of my leg and down into my ankle. I ended up just like crying and weeping. You know how that dead pain is just so debilitating, and it's like, it feels like it's in the core of the bone or something. And I started crying and crying and crying, and I went downstairs and I cried some more and allowed myself to emote emotionally. And as I did, it was very interesting. You know, I took a deep breath eventually, and then felt around, and a lot of the pain had gone. So I'm not saying that you don't, you know, it's not just about doing the physical application work. It is also about doing the emotional work, and because they're intimately tied. And later on, when I came up and started redoing continuing my yoga session, my yoga practice, I was able to get into those poses way deeper. And there'd be no physical manipulation or anything between that position where I started crying and the emoting, and then being able to stretch into it better. And then I went deeper into one pose, and I just touched where it was hurting. I just very light touched, and this memory came back. I forget what it was, very specific memory. It was, being slapped by my mom because I was terrified. I remember it, actually now I remember it really clearly. A pharingian was coming down the street when I was really young, like 1 year old or something, or less. And the pharingian was coming down the street, and bam, I was terrified. I didn't know what the sound was. I was all confused. I was like, you know, those sirens do that to you, especially if you don't know what's going on. I was terrified, and I started screaming, and my mom hit me. Well, that slap remained in there, and when I touched my hip there, that memory flashed back at me, and it was like as clear as I am on this call, on this hangout with you right now. And that memory flashed back. So that's how it is. There are going to be emotional stuff. You know, you can erase it, but you know, all of the stuff that would be happening for this person up in the shoulder region there, be aware that especially if you had like debilitating pain for years, which is what I had, there is emotional context to this that needs to be addressed too. So yeah, I got that off my chest. I felt a little vulnerable sharing that with you. So we're entering into the final phase of the Hangout now, and I wanted to share this with you. As you probably know, or maybe you don't, I do a free eBody fusion assessment to see if this technology can work for you. And it's basically a 1-minute form you fill out and complete. And this is still going, and I'm going to give, in the next slide, I'm going to show a couple of and discuss that. Two clients just came in yesterday, or potential clients came in, or friends asking for help around, can this work for me, came in yesterday, and I'm going to share this with you. The way that I'm going to put this out on the website is going to change next week. Basically, I'm going to have a video which will introduce it, and then you'll go to this page. And the free assessment will be offered to you for 20 minutes after you've landed on that page, and then afterwards there'll be a charge for it, because basically it's a $97. It takes me in the order of 20 minutes to half an hour to really process an individual of this. It's not, I'm not doing this cut and paste, and I'm looking at each person individually. And so let's have a look at this. I've raised their names for confidentiality, or the details of their names. Moses came in yesterday, and also Harold did too. So let's look at Moses's, and I brought this one up because this is, to me, this is kind of what happens with folks. In here, read the 1 to 10s carefully. You see that? This guy, Moses, came in and he has a 10 motivated, which is actually 0 motivation in the way the scales are put together over there. So basically, from that point of view, if that is correct and he didn't make a mistake in filling it out, which of course I emailed back to him and asked him to do it again, and you're going to want to pay attention to this, especially if you're going to be paying for it, which way you get it. So he put this in the completely the wrong end. So what this means, that to me, when I see something like that, it means that Moses has 0 motivation. So all of these things down here are fried. There's no amount of diet, no amount of trying to get physically fit. These years of major health issues will continue to grow, and his energy is going to get less and less. And he's giving, can you schedule an hour or more each day to self-treat? He's basically saying a no, or 1 is a yes. So he's not, there's a lot of things that are not happening here, which basically compromises him. And if you put this in, okay, he's had it for 5 years, no, 6 years, whatever the issue is there. Now, this is something you guys need to know. I don't need to know what your frigging issue is. Well, excuse my vernacular here. And the reason for that is, if you read this book by Mike Adams, if you email me, I'll send you a copy, or contact me on Facebook, I'll send you a copy. Mike Adams has done the psychology around naming different stuff. It empowers it. And so if you're caught up in that medical treadmill stuff, they're just empowering you to believe that you've got such and such and such and such. From an electrical model, from an electrical medical model, and I'm not a health professional, I'm not a doctor, thank God for you, I'm not. I'm not, I'm just a guy that was really good at looking at systems and analyzing them. You're not going to get these results if you're still saying, well, I've got this, that, or the other itis, or my doctor says I've got fibromyalgia and he's telling me to take these drugs. You got to move away from that. And then what I'm saying here is that you got to move to a place where you are, and I know this is so impossible, and this is where kind of like they got a lot of us beat. You've got to move to a place where you are passionate about getting a specific result beyond whatever the disease illusion is. And because with electricity, you can quickly do that. So back to Harold, to Moses here. Moses, I believe sincerely that you made a mistake on especially these values. So as I said in my email to you, please email me back, and then I'll reassess it. But basically, this is the data that I rely upon, and to give you good results, or to give you the best advice I can. Now, you know, because most people are all wrapped up in, oh, the doctor tells me I've got this, that, the other, or the tests prove or didn't prove, or the tests keep on testing. You know, from an electrical microcurrent point of view, it doesn't really matter what you got. And I noticed there was one question in the chat over there, and I'm just going to grab that and answer it. Yeah. Okay, we got somebody talking about lung fibrosis, and somebody else talking, what was it? Do you have any of interstitial scarring of the lungs or pulmonary fibrosis? So here we got the name game going on. And yeah, sure. But basically what this all implies, and I'm looking at the chat screen right now where I got that from. So, so basically what that implies, guest 9662, is that, you know, with stimulating the body electrically, it doesn't really matter what disease or what name you give it. All of this is recovered kind of magically, and I've been covering, you know, detailing this in these Hangouts over the last 6 months. I've been, or 5 months, detailing exactly why it is that you don't need to be concerned about what it is that the doctor's telling you is allegedly going on. And that is because electrical signals, like the microcurrent signals, have magical properties on it, on the body. And from the cell membrane point of view, with the issues that you're talking about, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you any, you know, here's another one, lung fibrosis. Oh, it's the same person. Lung fibrosis, you know, that's going to more than likely dissolve, but it's not because I can say that from a medical perspective. Do you understand that? And in fact, when you're asking me to give you a medical diagnosis, that is completely illegal, and I cannot do that either. That is why I use these forms here, which is where it would be preferable that you get you know, my questions answered around this, because it really has nothing to do with your specific complaint. Okay, electricity takes care of it all, and so that's the bottom line, you know. So if you want to solve your pain, in this case, in the lung stuff, whatever's going on in there, basically what you just got to do is start applying it, and I'll teach you how to resolve it. You know, actually, we've got properties in the electrical microcurrent that one of the properties that you can rely on is that it's going to take care of your pain, it's going to boost your energy, and it's going to rejuvenate the cells and the tissues underneath which were causing you whatever was going on. So, you know, it's like, you know, there's 3 qualities here. It's like resolve the pain, boost the energy because of the electricity into the body so that you have a better outlook, you can do things way better, and so resolve the pain and boost your energy. And so for me, working with this device over the last 6 months has really boosted my energy to the point where I can run pretty effortlessly up this hill for, you know, a mile and back down again. In fact, I love it now. And it's like I do it at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day now. And if I don't do it at the end of the day, since because I've been working too late and it's dark or something, I feel like kind of like guilty and that I've missed out on it. Not guilty so much, but I miss out on the energy and all of the body chemistry that is initiated when you get good solid exercise in there. So pretty cool, huh? So let's make 2016 the year for you to get really, really healthy. And there's Lindy holding up one of the DENASs, looking out over the ocean here in Hawaii. And boy, it'd be good to maybe bring some people over here and explore the island and do some training with them as well. Been thinking about that. I've put the message out there a couple of times and waiting to see if people will bite or how I'm going to promote that. So let's look at, it wouldn't be fair for me not to include, you know, how you're going to do this and the equipment that basically everybody that I'm talking with, I recommend buy. Now, there are different scanners or different microcurrent devices on the market, and one which I really love because of the efficacy of the units, and this is the one that Chris is using. And he's not using high-end stuff. I advised him against it until he learned what was going on with these ones first. And this is the DENAS Family and Friends Kit, which is, you know, a package. And it comes with different electrodes too. And if you refresh, and if you're interested in that, you can refresh the page underneath the video that you're watching right now, and there should be a buy now button that pops up. But I'm not going to put any of that stuff on the screen on the Hangout itself whilst we're live. I don't want to make this into a sales pitch for people that just want the information. But I'm just saying that this is available to you from my site, ebodyfusion.com. And also this Vertebra, which is unfrigging believable, what it does and how it does it. So, you know, do get one of these things. Just start playing with it. It's relatively inexpensive. For I don't know, under $400 you can get the 7-day training with me, and etc., etc. So it's a really good way to get going. And like I've been saying before, people are sort of like locked in on the PCM, which is this one, which has 108 settings compared to 3 for this. So this is like a no-brainer when it comes to using it. And we just had a gentleman going through the training last week. He just finished up and gave rave reviews around the training, except for some issues that I had with actually logging into the training site. I'm just still working that, getting those ironed out. So, you know, next week, next month in June, we're going to be looking again at part 6 of the 7 healing secrets of electricity on the neuropeptides. In the clinical studies, we're going to be looking at not the diseases of the respiratory system. I forgot to change that. I think, yeah, it's a question mark. I'm not quite sure if I've covered them all yet or not. I have to go and make sure. Let's see. I maybe have it written over here. But May, June, July. No, I'm not sure what's June. No, I don't have it written in there yet, scheduled yet. So going to be a surprise on that one. And you know, if you've got any other questions, I'm going to go back to the chat and answer those. Let's see what else has been coming in. It doesn't, well, hang on a moment. Am I at the right screen? That's always an issue. Yeah, here we go. It looks like we're all ready to go. Yeah, so if you're at the Hangout screen and you want to look at that offer that I have up there, it's yeah, there we go. The buy button is there, and it looks like I've answered all of the questions. And unless somebody wants to pop in one before we sign off here, if there are people that would like to walk through the DENAS purchase with me, indicate in the box below the Hangout page there in ebodyfusion.com Hangout. There's a chat box there. Indicate that you would like to do that, and I'll walk you through it and answer any questions you might have. In the meantime, I'm going to actually close down the broadcast function on the Hangout. So it's been great. Let me just get back to where am I? Yeah, stop. There we go. And I'm back again. Great. Boy, it's beginning to get warm in here. Whew. And yeah, let's see. I was just, yeah, if there's any questions that you have, I'd be happy to answer them. Go grab one of the assessment forms there and send that off to me if you're serious about getting involved with this remarkable work. It's just unbelievable what we can do with this stuff. You know, Chris, as you can see, and through his testimony and his experience, you know, you don't get gold medalists. You don't work on gold medalists unless, you know, you've got good tools. And Chris has really excelled with that. And it was been a great honor to have him in the training. He came to me and I said, how did you find me? He said, well, I was recommended by a friend in Germany, and he said that you are a real expert in this and that I should train with you. And that's what we did. And it's been absolutely the beginning of a wonderful relationship like I have with all of the clients who come in with training with me too. So aloha, I don't want to make this into a sales pitch fest. Just want to keep you with data and stuff that you can action, actionable data. And, look me up on Facebook. I'm at Facebook /Benedict Howard is my name. And unfortunately, I still can't get this thing to come up. I can't brand myself. Oh, too bad. Okay, so guys, this has been awesome having you here, and it's been awesome putting this together for you. And that's it for today. My name is Benedict Howard, and if you have any questions, stay on that Hangout page. I'm turning off the broadcast right now.